right, everybody, welcome in. Happy Tuesday, the Kinner Kev Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash. Mr. Kev Nash, welcome.
What up, though?
Look at that, not recording.
Oh,
look at that.
No.
Look at that. Now we just got to do live radio for 3 hours, like old school stuff.
Speak for yourself.
Oh well. I've been here all day. Where you been? I've been doing my job.
I've been working remotely.
But no, we welcome everybody in. David Shaw says, good afternoon, fellas. He says it's hot outside.
Dude. So, Shaw, you're at the golf course. Like, are people out there on the course right now it's 92 degrees. I'm not even sure what the humidity is out there. Like, are people out there on the links right now?
If I had to guess, probably, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, I've golfed out there when it's like this, too.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Drinking some beers, too. That doesn't really go over too, very well. But it's just tough walking from the car to the office. I mean, it's kind of a pain in the ass out there. I mean, a little toasty.
Yeah, I got out the car, still have my sunglasses on, fogged up immediately. It's tough out there. It's definitely tough.
Shaw said, yes, there's people out there. These retired folks, too, they have nothing else to do. They have nothing else. They'll go back to their rich mansions with the central air. They'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Like my mom says, drink a lot of water. Don't want to have a heat stroke.
Justin Smith, he says, quit crying, Shaw. Literally everybody's house I go to today has a broken air conditioner. Nowhere to cool off.
Whew, knock on wood.
I haven't been home today. I hope our air conditioner's working fine. We just got it fixed a couple weeks ago.
Whew, don't wish that on anybody.
We have a window unit upstairs though, so that helps. But yes, exactly. Nonetheless. But let's see what else. Justin Smith. I don't know what the luck of the Irish. What we got going on?
Oh no,
the
Celtics, the champions, the new champions of the league.
So we have new NBA champions. We got that coming up here today. Ryan Day had made some comments about using a certain star player on one side of the ball and using him on the other side of the ball. And it has a lot of people scratching their heads. Urban Meyer was recently just met up with the media and had some interesting comments about this upcoming season. The reason that they're interesting is because some people are saying, well, he's mounting up the pressure. He's increasing the pressure that maybe, just maybe, you set him up high to watch him fall so he can come in to clean up the mess. You never know. But we got some Urban Meyer stuff coming up around the corner. Talk a little Reds baseball here in just a little bit, because I want to talk with Reds fans regarding the Cincinnati Reds in this situation. Mathematically, just because you're a team and you're a Steelers fan, and the reason I bring this up is because I think you know where I'm going with this. I hate when people say, well, Justin, stop being negative about the Reds. They are mathematically in the playoff hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a difference between being mathematically in the playoff hunt and being a quality playoff team.
Fair.
And I don't believe that the Reds are both of those things. I believe that they are mathematically in the playoff hunt. I do not believe that they are a quality playoff team. And that was my expectation for them coming in. So we got that coming up later on in the show as well. The automatic, ball strike system is, there's a change coming to the minor leagues, to the AAA, starting I think on June 25th. It will be the automatic. It'll be a challenge system.
Okay.
So the players and the hitters, the catchers, the managers, they could challenge this. It's still the umpires calling balls strikes, but now they could challenge the balls and strikes. And again, all this stuff, we'll get to that around the corner. I'm done questioning things that are changes coming into baseball, because everything I said about all the stuff I hated about the changes, I was wrong about. So I'm going to be a little bit more open-minded to some of this stuff. But yeah, I think that sets the table for the show. That sets the table for the show. As far as that's concerned. So here's the deal. I know when we've talked NBA in the past, we squeeze NBA in from time to time. Some people buy into it, some people don't. Right. It's a very weird area with that. Obviously, we don't have an NBA team here, at least anywhere within the next 3 hours, right? It's all Cleveland. You have the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll get to them in a moment, too, because they could officially start any second now trying to get a deal done with old Donovan Mitchell, right? But the Boston Celtics won their 19th NBA championship. They have the most championships in the history of the NBA. All right. They surpassed the Lakers. So when the Lakers won the NBA championship in 2020, that tied the Celtics with 18 total titles. Magic Johnson tweets out that it pains him that the Celtics officially have more championships than the Lakers. But Jason Tatum and obviously Brown, they get the job done last night with all the drama. I've not been a Tatum guy. I've always felt like there's the superstars up here at the top, and he's that second tier guy. Mainly because I get tired of, he always tries to replicate the Kobe Bryant stuff. And I'm like, you try to be Kobe, you try to be the Black Mamba, but yet you disappear in the fourth quarter. And that's where Kobe made his money. That's where Kobe made his dynasty. So that's my disconnect with him was. But the bottom line is, it was kind of refreshing seeing a team be patient. It was kind of refreshing seeing a team not constantly blow it up. They moved on from, Marcus Smart. Yeah. They moved on from some role players, but they kept the core in place. And I think that was kind of refreshing to see.
NBA Finals, 4-1 against the Celtics. They lost the last game 106-88.
All right. Typical woman interrupting me when I'm trying to talk. Sorry, Siri decided to tell me that the Mavericks lost the NBA championship last night. Not that the Celtics won. She said that the Mavericks lost. That's kind of a weird approach. Siri,
negativity.
Make sure she doesn't interrupt again. Where was I going with this? It was refreshing to see, as we've talked about, this is 6 straight seasons with the 6 different NBA champion. Okay, the parity we talked about a while back. That's great. But the Celtics story is kind of cool. Although they weren't my cup of tea, I wasn't following them as much throughout the regular season because best record, but I'm like, they won't win it. The team with the best record rarely wins the NBA championship because sometimes the best team is doing a lot of load management with their stars and they're sacrificing games in the regular season. They're sacrificing seeding just to be healthy heading into the postseason versus trying to lock up the highest seed, trying to win as many games as possible, and then risking being injured heading into the postseason. So I didn't buy into that, but big picture, the Celtics have been a great story because they built around their core. And when the pieces they put around the core didn't work, they shipped them out. They brought new pieces in. Porzingis is that was a magnificent, getting him in there, getting Drew Holiday. They should not have been able to get Drew Holiday as easy as they did.
Man.
That was probably what tipped the scales a little bit, if you will. That was a great addition. But the Boston Celtics, 19 NBA championships. And it's kind of wild. Wearing the damn green jerseys, though. Wear the white jerseys at home. That's all I got to say.
The crazy part about that they have the most championships than anybody. They've only won 2 in the last 15 years. So 15 years ago, yesterday is when Paul Pierce, KG, Ray Allen, Rondo, Big Perk, and all those guys won the championship last. It's been such a long time since they won. So that means they've racked up so many in the early years, back in the 60s and the 70s and stuff like that. And then obviously the run in the 80s with Bird and the guys. But speaking to Jason Tatum and Brown, like, this could be it. This could be the 1-2 punch. And it not even could be. This is the 1-2 punch. This is the 1-2 punch that everybody's been wanting them to become. They're the best defending guys. Like, they play. Their best part about their game to me is their defense. The step back threes from Tatum, I could do without. The wild, crazy left hand layups from Jaylen Brown, I could do without. But you know what? They're got their sea legs under them now. They've been to the finals. They lost to the Warriors. And this is what normally happens. Like, if we go back in history, removing Magic Johnson and Kobe Bryant, 9 times out of 10, you're about 28 years old when you win your first championship. You get, battle tested. I mean, Jordan, LeBron, all the great players have to go get their bumps and bruises before they actually hoist the trophy. Correct me if I'm wrong, especially listening to audience, people that are older than me. Outside of Magic Johnson winning in his rookie year and Kobe Bryant winning, I believe, in his 3rd year with the Lakers, like, most of the time, these dudes got to go through their bumps and bruises before they actually, hoist that trophy. And I see a lot of people talking about, oh, Luka, he's not this, he's not that. Well, this is the process. This is what happens to most players in the NBA. I mean, look at LeBron. They got to the finals very early with the Cavs. They beat the Pistons, and then they went up against, the Spurs, and they lost. And I mean, it's pretty predictable about how this sport normally works. When Golden State and the Celtics played before, I said Golden State was going to win. I was Golden State will win in 5. Ultimately, they won in 6. But I just don't see young teams coming here to this point of the season and winning. So, like, if it would have been the Thunder that would have came out the West, they'd have went out the exact same way. If it had been the Timberwolves, they would have went out the exact same way. The only team out of the West that probably would have beat them would have been the Nuggets. And matter of fact, they were the only team to beat them multiple times during the regular season. And, going back to last season, when the Nuggets won it, they were the number 1 seed in all of basketball. So that's 2 years in a row that the number 1 seed in all of basketball has won the NBA championship. So I'm very hopeful that okay, since this is a copycat league and it's a copycat sport, that more teams will start putting more emphasis on the regular season and competing to win, because there was no doubt that what the Celtics were doing. I mean, They won 80 games total with regular season and playoffs combined. 80 games. Like, they were coming out there to win. And I mean, they ran away with the East with 13 wins. They went 16-3 in the playoffs. I mean, you don't get much better than that.
It's funny. And I'm victim of this too, because I fell for the Jason Tatum slander over the years and the Jaylen Brown slander over the years. And this is why I get so, like, with the WNBA stuff. Yesterday we talked about it. Like, I'm tired of the media telling fans how they have to perceive the league. And it's because the WNBA is not being treated any different than the NBA and others, because the reason is because they're actually getting treated the exact same, and it just seems different now for whatever reason. The NBA media is probably the worst media out there.
I agree.
It's the worst media out there. So when I say that the WNBA, there's nothing wrong with how they're being covered the way the NBA is, and they don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But they said they want to be covered like the NBA, and they are. But that's the problem, is the NBA is the worst media out there, because the media is like today. It's been a little bit about giving the flowers to Jaylen Brown and Tatum, but it's been more about fat ass Luka not getting it done.
Yeah.
Right. He's out of shape. He smokes cigs in the, you know what I mean? Like ripping heaters in the off season.
Yeah.
Like it was that's what I noticed today on First Take. It was a lot of anti-Luka stuff. You even had Brian Windhorst after I think it was after game 3 or
game three where Luka fouled out and everything and went ballistic.
Just unleashed on him. And the NBA media does this, and I don't get why it doesn't get called out more, because it's interesting. Like, they bash the product more than anyone else. So now I'm tuning in. If Luka, the first time, this is me watching Luka on the big stage in the NBA Finals, and all I've heard this whole time is how bad he is, I'm sold that Luka's a bust now heading into next season.
Right.
They've broke Luka's his aura.
Right.
He was a star coming into these playoffs. He was a star coming into these finals, but now I think less of him because I'm falling for all the noise around it, rather than what you said it. Well, this is a process. It's not you just come in and dominate right away. We got distracted for the 2010s decade, where this is why some people hated the super team era, because it felt like athletes were then just taking matters into their own hands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're not gonna wait 7 years for the process to play out. All right, we don't want to, and sometimes the process doesn't always work. That's why Joel Embiid ever does get a ring, it's going to feel very, very special, because that guy's been through hell and back.
Yeah.
And he may have to take matters into his own hands at some point and force himself to a situation where he can get a ring, because he's worked too damn hard not to get one. But when like for that 2010s era, LeBron and D Wade and Bosh, they all just took matters into their own hand, and they went and they took that title. Yep. Right. And it was kind of the battle of the new school way versus the old school Spurs way. That's what made that clash so interesting, right? Then you look what Golden State did with Kevin Durant. Even though people didn't hate the Warriors, they hated Kevin Durant. It was because he took matters into his own hands. Well, now we're seeing less of that, as we talked about coming into these playoffs. And the wild thing about it is today the NBA media, it's always, well, he won a championship. Yeah, well, Michael won it sooner,
right?
Or Michael did it against, in a tougher era. And it's always like, this product always sucks, and I'm victim of it too. Like, you're older than me, not being funny, but like your era versus my era versus the younger era. It's always going to be, I'm doing that. Well, the 2000s, those Lakers teams would eat these teams up. Those Spurs teams would eat these teams up. And these kids, but these kids today, no, Boston would do just fine. Who's guarding Shaq? But
exactly.
But the point is that's why the NBA, its unhealthiness is why it's healthy, is because those debates, they've at least stayed healthy. The WNBA, as we talked about,
at least it's about basketball. It's about basketball.
Yeah.
So for me, as I look at Boston and what they were able to accomplish this year, I mean, you do see some of the negativity about, Boston and them winning the championship this year, talking about the easy path and things of that nature. And, if you go through history of the NBA and try to dissect each and every team's championship run, you're going to find something in there that discounts it. Probably the biggest one, and obviously me being a Cavs fan, is, well, the Golden State Warriors, their first championship over the Cavs. The only reason they won that is because Kyrie got hurt. And like, that's the biggest one.
Yeah, that was my point. We always discredit.
Right?
We always
it's
find
the
ways.
discredit police. But at the end of the day, like I always say, man, what do you want the other team to do? Just sit there and wait for them to get healthy? Like, it doesn't work like that. You play who's in front of you. Is it their fault that Jimmy Butler got hurt? Is it their fault that Tyrese Maxey got hurt? No, it's not their fault. Is it their fault that Luka's out of shape? Like, it has nothing to do with that. Is it their fault that Kyrie Irving is a pariah to the Boston community and he gets shook when he goes back to the Garden, plays magnificent at home? He averaged like 33 points at the Mavericks home games and was absolutely terrible in all 3 games in Boston. Like, that has nothing to do with the players or the coaches. And to your point about letting this thing bake and letting it be a process, like, everybody isn't on the same clock. Like, people were like, oh man, Boston's on the clock. They got to win it now. They got to win it now. They got to hurry up. They got to hurry up. No, Tatum and Brown, if they didn't win it this year, oh, it'd be a lot of smoke. It'd be like, what's going on here? Like, what? Yeah. But you know who's on the clock to win a championship? People that are about to start declining. Like, these dudes are ascending. Dudes are about to start declining, like 2 of my favorite players, Jimmy Butler. He's about to start declining, if not already declining. Dame Lillard, who's also older, about to start declining. So, like, those guys are on the clock, not the guys that haven't even hit their prime yet. Like, so that's for me the biggest thing. Like, it is, like you just talked about, it is the tear down police. It is the, oh, well, y'all didn't do it like this. Y'all didn't do it like that. My biggest thing for people of a younger generation, when the yes, you're absolutely right. So when the younger generation that's watching Tatum and Brown and the Lucas and everything like that are fans of them, those guys, once their guys start winning championships, it's going to be your turn to argue with them. It's going to be your turn to have to deal with the madness, and you're going to feel exactly how I felt defending Michael Jordan all the time. And you're going to get to the point where, you know what, I'm good. I'm not going to do this with you. So buckle up, because if this is truly the coming out party for Tatum and Brown, watch out. Because if nine times out of 10, when teams finally get over the hump and figure out how to win, they keep winning. Tatum's about to get the extension. They're about to give White an extension. They already got Drew Holiday and Porzingis locked up to a nice deal. So the core is there. The core guys are there. So this could be something special, even though I'm not rooting for him because I'm a Cavs fan.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page, the iHeartRadio app.
We everywhere.
1410 Wing AM dial. I mean, it is what it is, but another year where a new champion is crowned. Now, Boston's not new to winning NBA championships by any means, but I mean, where there's no repeat champions, like there's no dynasty in the NBA right now, as we've talked about. And, you know, I've said it's interesting that the ratings keep dropping because everyone was screaming from the mountaintop that we're tired of the super team era. This Boston Celtics team is not a super team by any means. Now, they have developed into a super good team because they built around their stars and they were patient. But let's be clear. You have the NBA is in an interesting transition period because when we still talk a lot about the Kevin Durant's and the Steph Currys and the LeBron Jameses of the world, and then you go into that second tier where you talk about your Dame Times, you talk about your Jimmy Butlers, your guys that just come close or have been really, really good, but they don't have the hardware to match their production out on the floor. But right now it's been interesting. So you go back to 2020, the Lakers win it. And then the Bucks win it. And then the Warriors win it. And then the Nuggets win it. Now the Celtics win it. It's been a different champion every year. No repeat champions. But the most interesting part about from 2020 to now, it's been you get your Giannis Antetokounmpo winning his first ring. Yeah. And then you get last year Jokic winning his first ring. And now you get Tatum/Brown. They get their first ring. And they just played in the finals against the Warriors years ago. It's been a blend of the old with the new, and now the new starting to kind of take off a little bit the last couple of years with Jokic, and of course now with Tatum and Brown, and then you had Giannis a couple of years ago. The new guys are now officially taking over the league. You were starting to feel like LeBron exiting, Durant exiting, Chris Paul, these guys exiting, and he's still looking for his first ring. But it is interesting seeing the direction of the NBA. I do think that for the NBA to go that next step with these guys, Tatum has to win another one. Jokic has to win one. Giannis, someone needs to be a bad guy. Someone needs to be that Angel Reese. Someone needs to be that character that people are tuning in to watch fail, whether it's fair or not. Because right now the NBA, I saw someone say, man, appreciate LeBron, and they're out of the league. This is what you get. And I get it. The finals were not very entertaining. Last year, the finals were not entertaining. These finals have not been very entertaining. But you know how many Super Bowls aren't really entertaining? You know how many, well, I mean, some of you can't even tell me who's in the World Series last year, the last 2 years, and help me out so it doesn't look like I don't. No, but like sometimes that's not an indictment of a season as a whole. Still a very good season. A lot of young stars breaking out, and Wembanyama might be that guy kind of sleeping in the background. Tatum, everyone do your thing. Let Wembanyama develop, and then he's going to come shooting out the gate here pretty soon.
Couple things. First on that, I can't wait for the NBA to go to open seating. Like that's where it needs to go. This isn't the 1970s or 80s where, you know, they're flying commercial. These guys are flying charter flights. They need to go ahead and just do open seating, because you know what? That eliminates a lot of bad teams. That eliminates like these type of matchups. I mean, there is no more Western Conference and, Eastern Conference. Hey, man, if the two best teams are in the East and they battle it out to the championship, that's how it should be. Like, I'm a firm believer in that. And I'm also a firm believer that in the NFL as well. Like, how many times have we seen the de facto Super Bowl in the AFC or NFC championship game, and we know, like, all right, man, whoever comes out of there is just going to get smoked. I remember the one that really comes to mind is when the San Francisco 49ers blew out the Chargers. Jerry Rice and Steve Young just demolished those guys. It was just ugly. The NFC was just dominating back into those days. But the point about Tatum and Brown, what year is it right now? What's the year is it?
Is this a rhetorical? 2024. Let me just answer it with confidence.
Yes.
2024.
Yes. So Tatum and Brown are products of a trade that took place in 2013. They're a product of trading Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry to the Nets. Those picks that they got from the Nets are Tatum and Brown. 11 years. So fans, if you're a Lakers fan, a Cavs fan, a Pacers fan, whoever, when your team makes some trades on NBA draft night or whatever, just know whoever they're trading picks for, that person is probably in middle school right now, or probably even in elementary school right now, before you're going to see dividends on it. It's been 11 years and you finally cashed in. Now, obviously the Celtics are super happy. I mean, they got two of the better players in the NBA, but like, that's, you talk about process of, hey, letting these dudes get their bumps and bruises and push through and grow as players and everything like that. That's one phase. The other phase is, hey, man, these draft picks all the way from 2013, they finally panned out. It finally panned out. So patience, you gotta have a lot of patience.
So this goes back to what we talked about yesterday. What's good for the fan is not good for the league. What's good for the league is not good for the fan. What's good for the teams is not. This is one of those where it's not good for the fan, though. This is why baseball struggles. I don't like the draft. Baseball's draft's coming up. I don't give two rips about it. Now, I kind of care. The Reds, your Guardians have number 1. The Reds are 2.
Got some Wright State Raiders in there.
And the fact that, you have the Dragons now who are getting, because they restructured minor leagues a couple years ago, now you get better talent right off the bat coming to Dayton, so you feel a little bit more part of the process earlier on. But baseball, that's the thing. Like, people want that instant gratification, and the NBA for a bit felt like that for a little bit. These guys would come in and be stars. The Tatum story, that's not a good story for the NBA. It's a good story for NBA teams and for teams who have start like the Cavs. Like, the Cavs were looking at Boston saying, "Oh, that's our strategy."
Yeah.
When the Cavs would watch the Miami Heat do it. Now, that's a bad example because they lose LeBron to that, but you know what I mean? The Cavs would watch Miami do, like, oh, we can't pay 3 guys to come here. We can't even get one else. We can't even get one free agent to come here, right? Like, the Celtics, that blueprint is what's good for the league as far as the teams. It's not good for the fans, though. The fans, I don't want to be told that, man, my team has a top 5 draft pick. Man, I just got to wait 7 years and that could be us. No, we don't want that. That's why the NFL is so great.
Yeah.
You get Joe Burrow 2 years later, you're in a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like that. That's why the NFL is king. But again, I just think it's a blend. It's a blend right now as far as that's concerned. Shout out to the SEC commissioner. We have not heard from him in a while. What up, Daryl McKinney? I hope he's doing well. I ran into him at Costco I think about a month ago. Yeah, it was last month. I was getting stuff for my wife's birthday.
So that 2013 trade, that pick didn't happen until 2017.
And that was the Zion year, right?
No, this is so listen to these. I'll get it.
When did Tatum get drafted? Hold on, use that as a tease. Use that as a tease?
Okay, yeah, yes.
What are you teasing?
So I'll be teasing the 2017 NBA draft. You tell me which guy you would rather have. I'll give you the top 10 picks.
Fair. Then but Tatum and Zion did not come out the same year?
No.
They didn't. Oh, no. That was Zion.
That was RJ Barrett.
Sorry. Ball.
Yeah.
That was the Ball draft. That was because the Lakers and Knicks were trying to get, whatever it was. And it doesn't matter. We'll be right back. Kinner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. Justin Smith, the one point that I forgot all about too, a guy that I felt like has been playing since I was in high school, and I think he says love seeing Al Horford getting a ring.
Indeed.
I think he's like, 87 years old?
He's only 38.
We'll be right back. And we are back. Justin Kinner Kev Nash, Kinner Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Boston Celtics, 2024 NBA champions.
They're the champs.
19 NBA championships total in their history. They separate from the Los Angeles Lakers. Now have more championships than any other team in the history of the league. Of course, the typical debates all throughout the day. Are they the greatest NBA franchise in history?
I still think it's the Lakers. I know they have more, but I just think it's the Lakers because of the longevity of the Lakers. Like I talked about one in the first segment, like it's been 15 years between championships. And before the one that they won 15 years ago, I believe it was like 20 years in between there. So like the Celtics have a lot of championships prior to integration and things of that nature. But the Lakers have consistently won championships in every decade. This right now is probably the worst the Lakers have ever been.
So the Lakers, even the 90s when they didn't win one,
right?
They lost to the Bulls. That was one of MJ's. But they've been at least once a decade in the final. Then you get to the 2000s. That's the Shaq Kobe dynasty, and then you think it's going to fade away. And then within a 1 decade period, the Lakers had 2 different dynasties. Yeah. That kind of bled into the early No, it was all in that 10-year period because then there was a couple years of losing and then Kobe gets Lamar Odom and then he gets Paul Gasol and then, Andrew Bynum and then the rest takes care of itself. But there was 2 different dynasties there, and then they go a little dry in the 2010s, but then you get LeBron and then 2020, boom, you win an NBA championship 10 years apart. So yeah, to me, it's still the Lakers because I think the branding matters. But to be fair though, don't think this argument really matters because when you think of the NBA, there's 2 franchises you think of. Right. You think of the Lakers, you think of the Celtics, or you think of the Celtics, you think of the Lakers. I think those 2 franchises go hand in hand as far as that's concerned. I was listening to Greeny earlier today. He said the NFL, it's the Green Bay Packers. And I'm like, is it? Is it like the greatest franchise in NFL history? Is it the Packers? Because you want to count championships in there. Right. And not just because I grew up a Cowboys fan living in El Paso, but it's like when you think of the NFL, I still think you think Cowboys. I don't know if you think Packers right away. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's why I'm trying. Packers fan Tim, if you're listening, I'm sure you'll weigh in on this as far as that
That's
goes.
A good question. I guess you think of your favorite team first.
Well, I don't think anyone thinks the Browns for the right reasons anyways. But no, you're right. But like non-NFL fans, I thought, hey, name an NFL team. I feel like the Cowboys would get thrown out first over the Packers.
Is that a popularity thing?
Yeah, but I think that's why the relevancy thing too and the exposure constantly being talked about on every network show that's out there. I think that stuff helps too. The Packers haven't nearly been they're not leading any ticker on any national headline show since the drama with Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, so, but yeah, I think championships have to matter, but if that's the case, the Cowboys wouldn't be it, but there's no way you could say that you think of the NFL and you don't think of the Dallas Cowboys, even though it's been 3 decades since they've won anything.
Yeah. So, I mean, they had 3 in the 90s and then they had 2 in the 70s or something like that. So yeah, they definitely got the chip.
Rodgers says the Niners. He throws the 49ers out there. But the NFL, because they're so healthy, I don't think there's a wrong answer with them either. I mean, you think it'd be the Patriots had a 2-decade-long dynasty. And no one thinks of the Patriots as the face of it, but nonetheless, how about Bill Belichick, 24-year-old cheerleader girlfriend? Good for him.
Wow.
Good for him. That's all. But no, Celtics win it. And of course, we open up the show reacting to the Celtics winning the championship because of the way that they went about doing it. For me, especially coming out of high school into college, the big debate in the NBA was the people were so sick and they were just disgusted by the super team era. And that was a point where the Celtics team, it was a process. They get drafted and they have to develop, and there was a lot of trials, and there was just a lot of ups and downs. They had been to how many Eastern Conference championships before they even got to an NBA Finals. Then they get there and then they lose to the Warriors the way that they did. Then they almost split those 2 up, talking about Brown and Tatum, and then they bring him back, and then both are being rumored to not like one another. The jealousy is starting to come in, and now they're the closest friends in the world. They're winning an NBA championship together. So we're talking about the process and how to go about doing it, and this, that, and the other. Whether you like the super team era, or you don't, or you like the process. Some fans maybe don't want to. If I'm a Celtics fan and I watch my team draft Brown and Tatum, but I'm told you got to wait 7 years before this will lead to a championship, or would you rather your team just go get a LeBron James and a Anthony Davis or whoever and just instantly develop a championship team? What would you want? I'm going to say that. But I don't think there's as much pride. I don't think the Lakers took pride in that 2020 championship, not because it's the bubble, but because it just everything with LeBron, even still, he's been with them as long as he was with Cleveland the first time. And it still doesn't feel like a Laker. And it just feels like we're forcing this together. So there's just that when you don't connect with them. It's kind of like college basketball. The one and dones, you don't feel like you connect with that. With the portal being what it is, you don't have that sense of pride when your team wins a championship because it's like I didn't watch them come in as freshmen and develop and go through, come off the bench, and now they're starters and now they're leading teams. So with this Celtics team, there's a little bit more of that sense of pride because we watched their entire journey ultimately lead to a championship, and that didn't need a Kevin Durant to come or a LeBron to come to finish the deal.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at some of the players that were in that 2017 draft with Jason Tatum. Here's a top 10 picks. So you got Markelle Fultz, who's a bench player with the Orlando Magic now. Lonzo Ball, injured with the Chicago Bulls. Tatum, now an NBA champion. Josh Jackson out of Michigan State. He's no longer the NBA. De'Aaron Fox, finally an all-star with the Sacramento Kings. Jonathan Isaac, a bench player for the Orlando Magic. Lauri Markkanen, been on 3 different teams. Good player, very good player with the Bulls, then the Cavs, and then they traded him for Donovan Mitchell.
Sounds like he might be a Laker soon. He's on the Lakers list.
That is a rumor. That would be an awesome pickup for the Lakers. Frank Ntilikina, drafted by the Knicks. Dennis Smith Jr. out of North Carolina State, drafted by the Mavericks. Zach Collins. Malik Monk, good 6-man with the Kings. He's been balling. Luke Kennard, another rotational piece. Donovan Mitchell, Bam. So like those are the top 14 guys out of that draft. And I mean, I think it's hands down that Tatum is the best. Later in that draft, you got Jarrett Allen going 22 to the Nets. Now plays for the Cavs. OG Anunoby. Like it's a lot of good guys in that draft, but like those top level guys, I think it's clear as day that Jason Tatum's the best of those guys.
Oh, yeah. And that was, so this draft that's coming up, we had Deron Holmes in studio about a month ago, whatever, and we're talking about this draft coming up. It's a weak draft in the eyes of a lot of people. That draft was also viewed that way.
Yeah.
That was one of those, Lonzo Ball's getting propped up because it's a bad draft. If everyone remembers, that was his dad did an excellent job marketing him, and that was a bad draft, and they talked about it the same way that they're talking about this one. They talked about the Obi Toppin draft as being a bad draft, and we talked about with Tyrese Halliburton. You look at all the all-stars that are, talented guys there. So this draft could be talented right there as well. But yeah, that one, Tatum, no doubt. As far as that's concerned, you brought up Jarrett Allen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw.
Yeah.
Did you hear?
Goodness.
So
JB not playing.
JB Bickerstaff, I guess he's jumping on some shows in Cleveland now on their sports station over there, and he was praising Luka, but I think it was less about praising Luka and more about taking a shot at Jarrett Allen because basically complimenting the toughness of Luka, who was getting injections and doing everything he can to play through injuries. And it's like he was overdoing it. So it almost sounded like it was just like little side shots at Jarrett Allen, who he refused to take any kind of just any option treatment to help him tough out any kind of thing throughout the playoffs. And that was the big criticism of the Cavs during this last playoff run was, well, you saw them take that next step, but they just lacked that toughness when they needed to step up to be tough. That was a problem for Jarrett Allen. And I thought that was an interesting subliminal shot.
Yeah, huge Jarrett Allen fan. Jarrett Allen can be a member of a championship team. He could be that missing piece. If he was to go to a team like the Suns or something like that, I think he would take them back to contention for a championship. He's that good of a rim runner, shot blocker, defensive player on switching on the smaller guards and stuff like that. But I think this just speaks to the disconnect between JB and the players. We kind of saw this with Lamar, like so many questions about like, all right, is he hurt or is he injured? Why isn't he playing? I mean, he wasn't playing because he wasn't going to get paid. And so he had taken a stand. I think this is a Jarrett Allen, and not only a Jarrett Allen, but the rest of the players just not vibing with coach. And this is the first time I've heard it. I didn't know it was this bad with JB and the players. I mean, it was rumors about that, especially after he got fired. But I mean, I think it's clear as day now because obviously the Cavs let him go, and now he's talking about not directly, but indirectly. About, let's be real, man. I think Jarrett Allen's the second best player on the Cavs. No, he's not going to put up gaudy offensive numbers, but like there's more than basketball than putting the ball in the hole. We saw that with the Celtics with Drew Holiday. Like, he does so many small things that help those teams win. When they went on that long winning streak earlier in the season, it was Jarrett Allen and Mitchell spearheading the offense and defense. But if Mitchell don't like you, he's the best player, and Jarrett Allen don't like you, and the second best player, guess what, coach? Unfortunately, you got to go.
So watch him, and this is a good transition into this too. Watching what the Celtics just did, building around their core. Everyone's like, well, the Cavs need to take note of, first thing the Cavs need to do is figure out who the hell their core is. Because at one point it looked like Darius Garland / Colin Sexton, that was going to be the core. And I have no problem with them moving on from Sexton. You went out, you got Donovan Mitchell. It is a hell of a, again, you got Donovan Mitchell with 3 years, on a deal. Like that was a hell of a get. You had 3 years to try to convince him. And I think that they've come close. It does sound like he is going to extend with Cleveland, which that would be huge. When we get to that day, that's going to be huge. It's going to be a fun conversation because that's a huge win for Cleveland. It's the first time where they've gotten a stamp of approval from someone who wasn't just a kid from Akron. Right. So that's a big deal. But we'll get to that later. But like, you look at Cleveland, now it sounds like this Cavs team is going to look drastically different next season. And now it's sounding like they're not going to move on from anybody. That they're not going to move on from Jarrett Allen. They're not going to move on, like, especially if they get the extension done with Donovan Mitchell. That Garland's, side is basically saying, if you extend Donovan Mitchell, we would like to be traded. He'd like to be traded elsewhere. And there's reports coming out of Cleveland, listening to their radio this morning, that they have no interest in trading Darius Garland. And I don't know what they gain by holding that to the vest as far as that's concerned, unless it's something to do with Donovan Mitchell saying he wants to play with it. I have no idea.
You hang on to that until the trade deadline, because somebody else is going to be disgruntled.
Yep.
All right. I know that Paul George is going to be signing a free agency deal either with the Clippers or somebody else. But like, if a player of that caliber, or if you can't work something out with the New Orleans Hornets to get Brandon Ingram or something like that, you hold on to it until you get the right piece, because their biggest problem, the Cavs, is they need more size on the wing. Like, their wing player, Donovan Mitchell, who's very good, is still only 6'3". Like, you need a bigger wing player that can score points.
Yep.
Like Isaac Okoro, not scoring points. Good defensive player, not scoring points.
All right, Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll step away for a few moments. By the way, Packers fan Tim has spoken. So throw this out there, and this isn't like a big debate topic. I just was kind of curious. I heard Greeny talk about it on his show earlier today. With the Celtics winning their 18th NBA championship, separated, or their 19th. I'm sorry,
18th. It's 18.
18th.
Yep,
okay.
Yep.
So they won their 18th NBA championship, separating from the Los Angeles Lakers, who they were tied with at 17 titles apiece. They were, the Celtics are the greatest franchise in NBA history. The thing about the Celtics, they're an original NBA franchise.
Right.
Like, they didn't relocate, so they are a staple. What?
Shots at the Lakers.
Oh, yeah. Because technically, they're the Lakers. It doesn't make any sense, right? So they're a staple franchise, and they have the most championships in NBA history. Are they the face of the NBA? Is that the staple franchise? No staple center, right? But so then they would go on to talk about the NFL, and Greeny said it was the Green Bay Packers, and there was the Yankees for baseball and this. And I was like, I agree with all that, except I don't think it's the Packers. I do think it's the Cowboys. I know championships have to matter, and the Packers have at least won one here in a more modern era.
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboys, it's been 30 plus years. But at the end of the day, I think when you talk to non-football fans, you say, name an NFL team. I think the Cowboys, to me, would be the first team that comes to mind. But a lot of people think the Packers. So Packers,
really?
Yeah, Packers fan Tim says, everybody has heard of the Green Bay Packers. I'm not saying that they haven't. Okay. He goes, Lombardi, small town, public community shareholders, nonprofit, the only team to win 3 consecutive world championships, 4 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, et cetera, et cetera. They are going crazy in Brazil for the Pack right now.
Nice.
No, but that's, look, the NFL is healthy. There's a lot of candidates to be the face. We heard someone say the 49ers earlier. It's not a terrible one. I just don't know if I would agree with the Packers before the Niners, but I still think it's the Cowboys. But I don't think there's a wrong line.
I think it is the Cowboys, unfortunately.
And it's wild that the Patriots, no one, two decades in the modern NFL.
Cheaters.
Yeah, in the current day NFL model, 2-decade-long dynasty with Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. But I think you look at the Packers, it's been more than just the Lombardi era.
Right.
The Cowboys, it's been more than just, like, with the Patriots, it's the Tom Brady era more than anything else. But either way, let's talk a little Buckeye football. When we come back. We'll be right back. Kinner Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Ryan Day, he's taking arguably their best defensive player and trying to put him in arguably the deepest offensive position group room on the offensive side of the ball. What is happening Some of you might know what I'm talking about. Others of you don't. Stick around. We'll be right back. I might have disrespected your team a little bit. No surprise there. Wouldn't be the first time. Won't be the last. Wonder what Crybaby Watt's doing right about now. No.
The best defensive player in all of football.
David M on YouTube. Shout out to David. Hope he's doing well. He says Dallas and Pittsburgh would be his. Pittsburgh I didn't think about. We're talking about the Celtics and the Lakers are the most championships. I mean, you're talking about the Cowboys and the Steelers in the same situation. And the Steelers, that's a big brand.
Absolutely.
So he says Dallas and Pittsburgh. People talk about the 70s where the country was almost largely split fandoms between those two teams, and both have large random pockets of fans all over the country. He's a 49ers fan, he says. He goes, I agree with the person who said them, but their wide popularity didn't begin until the late 80s.
Yeah.
But I think from a brand standpoint, you see Pittsburgh, you see the Pittsburgh logo, you see the Cowboy logo. I think those carry the most weight. I do think the Packers are up there. I mean, I guess the 5 or the top 3, I would put the Packers up there.
I'll put the
Cowboys,
Raiders up there too.
Okay. Them relocating hurts a little bit, but
from Oakland to LA, back to Oakland, now to Vegas. Like they've been all over the place, but the fans stay loyal.
I'd put Cowboys, Pittsburgh, Packers in that order.
Okay.
I'd put them there. I don't know why I'm even leaving New England out, but I am.
They got 6 too, man.
So it's kind of one of those situations there. But let's talk about another championship caliber team, shall we? By the way, Urban Meyer. So Urban Meyer did a media hit in Columbus recently, and he was asked about, his thoughts on the upcoming 2024 season for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He was asked about the depth of the roster for Ohio State. Here's what Urban Meyer had to say about this particular roster and his expectations for the Buckeyes in 2024.
But as of now, this is one of the most talented rosters in the last decade, maybe ever. I mean, that's a big statement. They got to play, but you look at the quality of athlete at every position, I've never seen anything like it.
So, I mean, he's pouring it on thick. It's the most loaded roster in the last 10 years, maybe ever. He's never seen anything like it. This is a guy that has seen some of the craziest rosters, talent, and people that you could think of, right? Like, let's just be clear. So he's pouring it on a little thick. Now, I've seen the little conspiracy theories on social media that state that, hey, he's propping them up. He wants people to believe that this is the most talented roster ever. So in case they do fail, in case they do stumble, and Ryan Day's approval rating goes back down to where it was late November last year, maybe he can kind of swoop back in to save the day a little bit. But nonetheless, thoughts on the old Herb's comments. Look, I know how loaded this roster is, but let's be clear. Yeah. Will Howard, I think they're only going to be as elite. They will only be as elite as he is, if that makes sense. I think they are going to be very, very, very good. They are a championship contender. But for them to be the championship contender, for them to be that team, for me to say that that's the team that's the best roster in the last 10 years, maybe ever, I've never seen anything like it. For me to buy into Ohio State to that degree, Will Howard has to be Justin Fields, CJ Stroud-esque. And if he's not, and he's just good, and we saw Kyle McCord he put up good numbers in Ryan Day's system, right? If he's just good, then Ohio State's going to be really, really good. But I wouldn't pick them as the championship favorite if he's just good. If he's elite, if he's CJ Stroud, Justin Fields-esque, okay, then I'll put him in that category. But I just can't get on board with that type of talk yet. And I know more than Urban Meyer, right? No. But what do you think about that?
So let me ask you this question. What did you think of J.J. McCarthy at Michigan?
What I think of J.J. McCarthy at Michigan? Mm-hmm. You know this. By the way, did you see that the story came out today that him and his girlfriend are spending a lot of time studying the playbook for the Vikings.
Get a room.
It's adorable. It's adorable. Anyways, so again, okay quarterback, good quarterback. But I think I see where you're going.
What did you think of Stetson Bennett at Georgia when they won back-to-back championships?
That second time, I know people didn't want to give him any kind of Heisman love, but he was statistically elite. He was statistically that first one. No, first one, he was just a very average quarterback. He didn't need to be more than that. But I mean, Georgia looked like one of the best teams ever when he elevated his game. And that's my perception here, I guess. But
I think that we are transitioning back to a world of college football where you do not have to have a top 5 quarterback to win a championship in college football. There was a run with the Deshaun Watsons at Clemson, Trevor Lawrence at Clemson, a litany of other teams out there that won national championships, and their quarterback was the main cog in the wheel. He was the guy. He was out there willing and dealing. and everything like that. I think you don't have to have that now, especially with the transfer portal. I think you're able to load up these rosters so deep and so much experience and bring back guys with so much experience, guys that would have been 3rd and 4th round picks. You give them a couple extra bucks, they come back for their, 4th or 5th year. Hey, these guys should be in the NFL competing to make a roster, but they're still in college going up against what we already know is weaker competition from half the teams in the Big Ten, scratch half the teams in the Big Ten, and about 95% of college football, Ohio State's roster is already better than them. So they're only competing against another 5%. And that 5% is a Georgia, and maybe Alabama and things of that nature. So I don't necessarily think that Will Howard has to be C.J. Stroud, because, C.J. Stroud was C.J. Stroud, and he didn't win the championship neither. So I think it's more about the sum of the parts than the actual player, kind of like how the Celtics were. We look at Brown and Tatum. We know those are the best guys on the team, but you're not going to tell me that Drew Holiday and Derek White and Porzingis and all the other guys didn't play a major role in that. I think that Ohio State's roster is so deep because it's just so many players that are just next level. Now, it wouldn't hurt to have a first-round quarterback, but I think Will Howard is going to be good. I don't think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be good. He was good at Kansas State, but I don't think you have to be great at Ohio State, especially with these amount of weapons, to get us to where we want to be.
No, and so let me reiterate let me rephrase what Ohio State's a national championship contender.
Yes,
no doubt. But for Urban Meyer to say this is the most impressive roster in the last 10 years, maybe ever, that's what I mean. Like, they're a championship contender, even if he's just an okay quarterback. But for me to say that this is the most loaded roster maybe ever in the last 10 years, I think that quarterback, because LSU with Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, you look at the weapons they have defense. Like, to me, I think for a roster to be considered loaded,
Can you play the audio again? Because I took it as he was just talking about Ohio State's roster. I didn't take it as he was talking about all of college football. So let me hear it again.
But as of now, this is one of the most talented rosters in the last decade, maybe ever. That's a big statement. They got to play, but you look at the quality of athlete at every position. I've never seen anything like it.
So you're saying maybe he doesn't mean of all the rosters out there, maybe of all the Ohio State rosters.
Yeah, that's what
Ohio State's been dominant in decades past with average QB play.
Yeah.
But either way, I don't know enough about Will Howard for me to put them in that category. And even those teams that you talked about, even last year, Michigan winning it, everyone said, okay, like, oh man, that's a scary team. But there were a lot of teams last year that could have won. Alabama could have won it with an average quarterback.
Yeah.
Georgia could have won it with an average quarterback last year. Ohio State could have won it with an average quarterback. There was a lot of championship contenders.
Probably the best quarterback out of the teams that made it to the 4 didn't win.
Washington.
Yeah, they didn't win.
Yeah. So, but and
the second best quarterback didn't make it to the championship game in yours. So,
and when you look at Michigan, you talk about that defense.
Yeah.
With their 24-year-old defensive backs and all that stuff. But no, nonetheless,
it's very interesting. So the second year, the sophomore year with Zeke and Bosa and those guys, where they beat Alabama and won the national championship over Georgia. That junior year of those guys, that roster.
That's what Shaw just said. He said, "Come on, Kev, 2014. That roster was more loaded.
That roster, I believe, is more loaded. But guess what? They didn't win the championship.
But hey, Urban, I know what he's doing. Prop him up. So when they fail, get that bum out of there. In Herbs, we trust. But last thing here as we close out the first hour, Ryan Day having a lot of people question something he just said recently in his media availability. Apparently, Ohio State head coach Ryan Day says that All-American safety Caleb Downs, arguably their best defensive player and probably the number one get in the portal after, of course, Nick Saban retires. They go and get one of the best talents in the country out of the portal in Caleb Downs. And when you think of Ohio State, obviously they need to add weapons on defense too, to match the explosiveness on the offense. But they also made noise when they went out and got, Judkins, the best running back in the portal, and put him alongside Trevion Henderson. And many people said, okay, Judkins is cool, but you don't really need Judkins. You had, you ended up losing who they lose to Colorado. You had Dallin Hayden and Trevion Henderson. And many people said that would have been one of the best running back rooms in college football. And now you go get Judkins with Trevion Henderson. Man, no one's doubting the depth at running back at Ohio State. So Ryan Day, according to sources and the Silver Bulletin and Bucknuts and the 11 Warriors and everyone that's out there has been jumping all over this. Ryan Day has said that, Well, All-American safety Caleb Downs has spent some time in the running backs room and this offseason and will be looking to use him on offense moving forward. What? Kev, like, I don't like this. And I'm sure that to be respectful to them, they probably have their reasons, but I don't think they're good reasons. So I just don't get this. Like, of all the running back room's not broken. It's not like that's something that you need. Was it Steel Chamber? Who was it? Not Steel Chambers. He switched to
running back to linebacker.
So he went for the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, but they needed help at linebacker.
Yes.
And they had so much depth at running back. That was the way for him to stick around.
Yeah.
Because he didn't see a path to become a running back for Ohio State with all the depth that they had. And he knew they needed help offensively or defensively. So that made sense. Downs, you're going to go make your money at your position on defense. And I will be so pissed if in the third quarter of a meaningless game when they're up by 150 and they're just trying to, use him in some run packages just to get him acclimated and he ends up getting hurt.
Don't say it.
I mean, no, but Ryan Day, you want to play dumb games, you're going to win dumb prizes. And I think that this is pretty silly. I don't usually get fired up about stuff like this, but this is stuff that you see teams who aren't confident in their approach to things. This seems gimmicky, but this could also be something that was discussed in the portal time. This could be the power of the players. Remember, hey, I'll come to you, but hey, coach, I was really thinking, like, I know I love playing defense and that's what I'm viewed at, but like, I'd like to see what, use my athleticism on offense. I'll come to you if you do that. Okay, fine. Yeah.
He returned.
I don't like that.
He returned punts at Alabama as well. Not a huge fan of it simply because like we got 2 stud running backs and then there's younger running backs behind those guys. So you would imagine, like you said, if we're up, 4 or 5 touchdowns, scratch that. If we're up 4 or 5 touchdowns, me and you are playing. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So I get it as a gimmick. You show it on film to make people think about it, give your opponent another reason to worry. But like, what if he is like, I don't know, freaking Marshall Faulk back there?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just gonna sit on that? I mean, I know we got really good running backs, but like, what's another one? Like, I know he's gonna make his bread and butter at safety, and that's the main focus. But like, there's been so many other guys out there that have played on both sides of the ball. I wouldn't do the whole, hey man, you're playing 60 snaps on defense and another 40 on offense like they're doing with the kid out in Colorado. I don't think we need to be doing that. But a little bit of show and tell, a little bit of show them on the field, a little fake it to them action and throw it the other way just to keep them guessing, and then, pull it out when you really need it. I wouldn't mind it.
But this is the most loaded roster in the last 10 years, maybe ever. You don't need to be doing this stuff. That's all. That's all.
You're giving us something to talk about. It is.
And
it's June.
From that standpoint, I can get down with that. In
Thanks,
fact,
Coach.
Let's use Will Howard at safety. Let's get down to business, shall we? No, I'm just saying, like, Colorado, I get why they have to be creative and almost approach it like a high school team where you're playing both sides, right?
Yeah.
Because your best players, the more that they're out there, the better. When you're Ohio State and all the talk about this team is their depth, I just think, let's be clear here, we would mock other elite programs if we heard that. Okay, if Nick Saban came out, and we would even mock Nick Saban, I think. Why would you use Caleb Downs at running back? And I think it's just because it's not just that they're doing, it's because at running back, people question why you went and got Judkins. Like, and they're not mad at that. It's just like, they're stupid rich at running back.
Yeah.
Like, what? So if you are up by 100, it's going to be because of those guys in the positions that they're at. There just doesn't seem to be any way that it makes sense where you also have other talented running backs that have committed to Ohio State.
Right.
I'd be pretty pissed if they're giving Caleb Downs carries when
Fair.
I'm coming here. This just doesn't seem worth it to me. That's why I said with the player power movement right now, with all the leverage they have out on the NIL or in the portal trail, Kev, yeah, I would like to play a little offense. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Go ahead and come to Ohio State. Oh, crap. I forgot we said we talked about it. And I guess we have to talk about it. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. Either way. Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio.